Hi, Sean Huxter here. Welcome to Magical Little Worlds with me. It's been a while since I've updated anybody on the project that I'm working on. This is Sydney Swift Shuts Down the Steam Power Punk. Originally intended to be printed on my FDM printers, which are layered filament printers, as almost everything you see here is. And you can tell the lines are not great. Certainly the layers certainly show up in places. And I do have a resin printer, and I printed a lot of the small parts in resin, like on this model now. I'm pretty sure some of these pieces are printed in resin, including the velocipede, the villain of the piece. And the resin printer is quite nice. But the resin printer I have, which is an Anycubic Photon, has a lot of problems with layer distortion. And it's not resolution as much as the shifting of the layers as the layers print. Like the vertical mechanism is not very solid, not very stable. So everything in here, just about, except for, I think everything in here is printed on FDM printers. And you can see lines and layers and surfaces. Pretty bad when it comes down to it, right? You zoom in, here you go, look at that. And I was satisfied with that because this is a large project. And my Anycubic Photon resin printer can't really print large parts very easily. That said, I did print a head. This is printed on my resin printer, and you can see vastly different quality between the resin printer and the FDM printer, which is nothing but lines. And this one, you can detect lines, but where this one falls down is I get these layer distortions that should not exist, but they do. And that is highly disappointing. Look right there. And this is not like the resolution of the printer. This is actually the printer wobbling as it prints. And so let me just go over quickly the difference between printers. Recently, I decided I had enough, and I actually spent a little bit of money and bought an Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra, which is a relatively new printer. And if you go on Amazon, you find that it has all the recommendations and certifications. Everybody loves it. It's great. You can get more expensive ones, but for bang for buck, this was the one to get. I hoped anyway. So I did some test runs, and now I'm going to show you the difference between printers that I have. So the the Affinia H480s that I've been using since 2013, and I printed almost all of this in. I mean, it was fine, for what I wanted. This is what you get when you try to print a sphere. And this is the top sphere of the Van de Graaff machine. I mean, from a distance, it's fine, but... And also, by the way, this is painted silver. This is spray painted silver, which really highlights the lines. This is the Affinia H480. These are ancient printers now by today's standards, 2013. I'm sure that if I bought an FDM printer today, it would be much better than this. And I may do that in the fall. As resin printers, I can only print in the warmer months, but in the fall, I'm going to want to print again, so I'm probably going to get a nicer FDM printer for most of my toy work, which is easier to deal with. Now, my Anycubic Photon printed this, which, is much nicer. Do a comparison side by side, clearly much nicer. But then again, we have this layer wobble that comes from not the printer's resolution itself, but from the mechanical flaws of this particular printer. Now I'm going to show you what I got out of my brand new Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra. The painting on this is a little more mottled because I didn't do exactly the same paint. But look at this. There's no wobble at all. It's a perfectly round sphere. I absolutely think this is amazing. I'm going to compare this to the original. So this printer has a much larger print bed. And let me just do one more example here for you. I'm going to put this aside. This is the column of the Van de Graaff machine, one section of the column. And this is printed on my filament printers at 0.15 millimeters. Compare that to the Anycubic Photon, which has a much higher resolution, but again, you have to print on an angle for these things to work properly. Again, look at the wobble. The layer wobble is ridiculous. So I had enough. And I got the Elegoo, and this is what the Elegoo does. Look at that. I mean, wow. That's the difference. So I have decided I'm going to do this entire project on my Elegoo. And just to show you what that means, this is the head that I printed on my Anycubic Photon in black. This is the same head printed on my Elegoo, my Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra. Look at this. Honestly, you can actually see the individual polygons that I created this from. And I created this in a certain number of polygons because I knew what would be visible at a certain resolution, but I never counted on printing it in this resolution. Look at this detail. Again, you can start seeing it here, but once I paint this over, that's not going to be a problem. And you know, the cloth rippling that I did on here is very visible. These lines here, if you watch my videos, you know it's traditional that I drop something on the floor. I'm a bit of a Butterfingers. So I was going to say, these layer lines here are actually from, I think the different resin, I think some other resin leaked in. I was using 2 different colors. There is some sort of warping here. I'm not quite sure what that deal is. And it does warp this a little. And I think that might just be I didn't have enough supports right here, because you can see support breakage here. So maybe I didn't have enough support here, or there was too much here and not enough up here. But either way, the result of this is fantastic. And now I am committed to printing this entire project on my Elegoo Saturn. Let me show you a couple of other updates. I printed Max. Now, these are printed on the Anycubic Photon, so this is not as perfect as they will be when I get them printed on my Elegoo. I printed this on the Anycubic Photon and painted it. So not bad. The support little pips here are my problem. I didn't clean the supports well enough or sand properly. But this is Sydney Swift. This is the Steam Power Punk. Again, printed on my Elegoo, my Anycubic Photon. So you see there are still these wobble lines on here, but I thought that was fine enough for now. But now I'm going to be reprinting these on my Elegoo, and they will be perfect, I'm pretty sure. And this is a bonus character that I created for this set, and this is the Steam Power Mistress. And she's a gas masked villain who is the partner of the Steam Power Punk, and I love her. I think this is like my favorite character that I've made so far. And again, printed on the Anycubic Photon. Eventually that will be printed on the Elegoo as well. And they are intended to fit inside here. Like, he can stand up here on the platform, for example. She can stand down here, doesn't matter. She can stand anywhere as well. This one tilts back a little too far right now, so she can stand, and she's pretty well balanced. And of course, Sydney is designed to fit inside the vehicle, so Sydney can snap in the foothold here, much the same way Mighty Max does on a lot of the Mighty Max sets. But here's the next update. I started printing parts for the vehicle with my new printer, and this is what we're looking at difference-wise. This is pretty amazing. The deck, I mean, there's the difference. Look at this. I painted this. I didn't find a perfect match for this blue, but I kind of like this tealy green blue. It's almost pebbled. I really like this. Then there's the skirt, the hover skirt. Again, you can actually see the polygon lines, which, because I didn't make it high enough res to work with this printer. And like the little jet underneath, this compared to this, right? So this is a game changer. I will now be printing this entire project in my Elegoo. And let's just compare, for example, my vehicle has these claws that come out, and this is the difference here. So yeah, I think my next update, I'm actually going to have a lot more done. I'm going to have the vehicle assembled. I'm going to have the maybe the head put together. So I also printed the bottom part of the head with the gear underneath attached and test fitted this together. And that is a little looser than I expected, but once I put a pin in there and the gear fits in here, this is going to be pretty good. The little bit of warping I got here causes some sort of, and also when you cure these, they warp a little. I cured this with the FDM version of the interior clamped to it to keep its form. But I mean, this is going to be really good. Anyway, for now, that's all I'm going to show. But, oh, there's one more thing. On Facebook, on the Mighty Max Worldwide group, somebody whose name I can't pronounce because it's just 6 letters with no vowels, suggested doing a Mighty Max figure of Mighty Max in scale to the Doom Zones, you know, this big, because this is compatible with Mighty Max, but coming out of the portal that we often see him coming out of in the show. So I thought, I can do that. I can do that really quickly. And within a couple of hours, I had the model made. And because I had done a model years ago of a robot with tentacles, and it was the HP Hovercraft robot that I created, I decided to use some tentacles. So now we're going to have Sydney Swift coming out of the portal, being pursued by some tentacled beast. But luckily, at least as far as your imagination goes, he escapes the portal before the tentacles can get to him. Now, when I'm done, this clear amber resin is going to stay clear, but all of the tentacles in the figure will be painted in opaque, so this is going to look really cool. Unfortunately, all the supports back here kind of make it a little... I think I can just clean this up by filling it with paint and smoothing it a little, but the front is going to be spectacular. And so he's going to be part of the set as well, of Max, of Sydney, in this case, Sydney Swift, coming through the portal that he travels, or he or she, again, Sydney is ambiguous, you can make up your own mind, that Sydney will be coming through. And that is my fairly exciting update, given that my new printer is going to allow me to do this whole set kind of almost like it came out of the factory, rather than coming out of my FDM printers, which in my mind was fine, but not perfect. Now I'm going to get as perfect as I can get. And so I will keep you updated. It's going to be a while. I'm kind of working on printing now, and like I said, it'll be a while, but I will make updates as I have something worth updating for. Okay, so for now, welcome to Magical Little Worlds with me, Sean Huckster, and I hope you follow my project to its completion, which is coming fairly soon. Thank you, guys. Bye.